Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 6th Grange Town Board meeting. Could we all please rise for the pledge? Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could all please remain standing and honor those that are no longer with us and those that serve and protect us both here and abroad. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, good evening, everyone. Madam Clerk, can we start with the roll call?
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Condon.
Here.
Supervisor.
Here.
Councilmember Giangrasso.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly Robin. Here.
All right, thank you so much. Before we adopt the agenda, we did have a last-minute thing from our attorney that came in, which was an agreement for a performance bond for stormwater facilities for Grace subdivision. Do I have a motion to add that to the agenda?
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Okay, for our minutes from our April 15th meeting, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a public hearing for a local law, which is a moratorium for battery energy storage systems. Anybody that would like to speak, we would ask you to come up here. You can speak to the board. You have 3 minutes to say whatever you would like. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Would anyone like to come up and speak on the public hearing for the local law? Yes, sir, please.
Good evening, Town Board and fellow LaGrange residents. My name is Nivo Ravito, and I'm a longtime member of LaGrange and a member of our town's CAC. Although tonight I'm speaking for myself, my opinion, not for the CAC. My opinion on the matter of the battery storage moratorium, the best moratorium, is that it is unnecessary. Is our town's main concern safety? Well, New York State has crafted and made law the most thorough, toughest safety regulations in the country for BESS this past January in the updated fire code, specifically pertaining to BESS. Is the issue unfamiliarity with these utility-scale battery facilities? Well, there was a presentation on these systems and their safety given to the town and recorded. It's on the video section of the town's website. So anyone who wants to look for fact-based information on BESS can watch it. Spoiler alert, for those who haven't seen it, BESS has many affordability and grid resilience benefits, and safety concerns are largely misplaced. If the concern is for the ecology of the proposed site, well, that can be investigated and studied without imposing a moratorium. I'm convinced that using BESS will become inevitable if we want affordable electric rates and a more robust grid delivering power to us. Right now, electric bills are skyrocketing for delivery as well as for the cost of natural gas that powers a lot of the grid around us here. So right now, our electric bills are skyrocketing, and that's partly because of much neglected maintenance is being done on a lot of the grid, which is necessary no matter what the source of power is, whether it's fossil fuels, wind, solar, nuclear, hydro, whatever. But BESS allows us a quicker, more affordable fix than building out new power lines, which cost a ton and take forever, by using constrained transmission lines when they are not constrained at night, and delivering power when it's most needed later on. Look at how Texas tamed its price spikes by deploying BESS. Watch the video to see what I mean. Batteries allow us to use the existing wires to provide more power when needed and help prevent outages. We are lucky in New York State, at least for the western part, to have cheaper, cleaner energy, mostly hydropower. But in the Hudson Valley, our access to it is limited, and we're mostly using peaker plants to power when we need it. And then batteries, if you think about it, are like scattered sponges. They soak up the rain when the rain comes and then deliver the water when it's needed. So As the best recording video shows, New York State offers resources to towns considering best, from helping to craft local laws to advice on siting the facilities. So let's use these resources, and let's move LaGrange into helping usher in a 21st century energy economy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, hi, Pete Plackchin, also a 30-year-plus resident of LaGrange. I stand opposite of that. I thank you for putting the moratorium in place. A few things. One of the sites is planned for Freedom Road, 117 acres, the old Dandenau farm on the top of the hill. That currently is zoned like R10 residential. Batteries, be it stored in containers, is an industrial C1 heavy commercial type of operation. So the question is, who are they for? It's being pushed by New York State and Hochul through Marist, part of the Green Deal still left over in venture money from Biden. And it got to this point, but it's for Con Edison and Central Hudson lines. Well, Central Hudson has a lot of space down by the river. You could put the same batteries down on the IBM site because half of that is for sale. It's commercial, C1, heavy industry. And the other half is so polluted brownfield, you could probably put it there as well. And it's just where you put the batteries. You don't put the batteries in residential virgin farmland. I have some really bad slang. It's like crapping where you eat, right in your own neighborhood. So I thank you for what you're doing. I will also tell you, just like you did on the corner of 82 and 55, I really love Stewart's for their fresh milk, their donuts, their turnovers, and their ice cream. I really wanted it there, but at the time, the old board, no spot zoning, and I would say that applies here as well. C1 heavy commercial, put as much as you want on the brownfields, whether it be IBM East Fishkill, IBM Poughkeepsie, IBM Kingston, plenty of room for it, but not here. The other alternative, I heard about this balancing for New York City and no brownouts. Well, the modern day and age are these community nuclear power plants. We used to have this thing called Indian Point. There's still room for a small community nuke plant that can power 2 or 3 municipalities. And it's not anywhere near as dangerous as the old plants. So there's other alternatives. It's supply on demand coming from a nuclear power site. Much better than having all these polluted, or not polluted in your case, batteries, laying around in what was virgin field. It turns into batteries. And likewise, the solar panels that go up everywhere. Once they break down, you know what the owner does? They walk away from it. They don't replenish it and refix it or get the ground back to virgin. They walk away from it and let the community look at the ugly ones that are left. So thank you, but I stand with your moratorium.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to please? Yes, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Wagoner. I'm also a longtime LaGrange resident and a CAC member, though I'm speaking for myself, not for the CAC. I'd like to support a lot of what Nevo said. I read the New York State law about citing these batteries, and while I'm not an engineer, I was impressed at how thorough and safe it is. I mean, it is the best in the nation. They put together a panel of experts who worked for a year to anticipate and all of the possible problems and to look at what had been the cause of problems in the past. And I think they put together a terrific safety plan. Comment about the peaker plants, they are highly polluting, and these battery storage can replace them in times of high demand. I remember reading that Dutchess County has some of the highest asthma rates. I have two sons who grew up here, played soccer, all that stuff. They both had asthma while they were living here. One of them lives near Boston. One had lived in Colorado and now is up near Saratoga Springs. And they both say they have not had any asthma problems since they left Dutchess County. I'm not, can't. I would agree with the gentleman who just spoke about trying to site these in areas that are not like pristine farmland. I think ideally they would be close to existing substations. That's where they're most useful. That's already kind of an industrialized area. And I'd certainly not want to see them put into wetland or other sensitive areas. But I think it is a bridge to a more reliable electric grid. We all know it's under a lot of stress, especially with all of the AI demands. And so I would like to see us go ahead without a moratorium, but to think very carefully about where we put these and move into the next years as well equipped as we can be. And high power transmission lines and nuclear plants take years and billions of dollars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
Yes, sir, please.
So, hi, Dave Siegel. I wasn't really going to speak on this tonight, but I think just listening to the people in the room, I get a sense that a moratorium is a 6-month, let's slow down and learn as much as we can about this. I was here for the Sierra Club meeting. It was very good. There was a lot of information. It was given from the standpoint of two people who are getting paid by the best industry. So there's that. And there's a lot of information. So I actually support the board for this moratorium. I think it's a good idea to spend some more time learning about where to put them, making sure that we're doing the right thing. I was at the Sierra Club meeting. I also overheard some farmers who were saying that they have such a difficult time farming and making money now that solar and BESS might be a way for them to use their land better. So I just think it takes let's just give it a little bit of time and try and learn what we can. And so I am in support of the moratorium. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Yes, sir.
Jeff Kaiser, Schuyler Drive. I'd like to Dave just spoke, I ditto what he just said. I support the moratorium, just to take a pause, figure out what we need to do. We're not saying no to it. We need to look at it, the bigger picture of it. There was a lot discussed that night, and there was a lot of information given, but again, it was to their point of their side because they want to do this. I'm not against it. But also, I asked the question, how much money is it going to save us? And it came out and it said 0. It is not going to lower our energy bill. I am all for green energy. I would like to, any angle we can get energy from, but it was stated right in the meeting that there is 0 cost savings with this. It may help us in the future to keep costs down. It really has nothing to do with Central Hudson, because Central Hudson doesn't create power, they just deliver the power. But again, we talk about pristine farmland. One of the sites that was just talked about tonight, the old Danino property, that's some pretty nice farmland. So now you're going to be next to a neighborhood with these kind of sea container looking units with power going to the power line. So again, how can you tell one person they can't do it on their property and another person can do it on their property? I mean, if they apply for it, it's going to be, The other big point I'd like to make is, that was also discussed that night, was that these individuals that are proposing these sites, they have no history in some of this. They just want to come and do it. And the comment that was made was, you better get a pretty big bond from them and hold the bond, because when 5 or 10 years down the road goes and they walk away from the project, we're stuck with the problem now with batteries sitting there, and that's why you take a bond for it. So it's not as simple as everybody thinks it is. So that's why I support the bond also, to give it time to figure out what we need to do for the projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, sir. Yep, please, yep. Sorry.
Andy Teese, 11 Apple Summit Lane. I'm right behind you guys with supporting the moratorium. The energy shouldn't be put into the batteries. It should be put into lobbying the Public Service Commission so that we can have off-peak usage like we used to. If you want to do your laundry, you want to cool your house at night, that's where it should happen. Have it work towards the utilities and giving it to have the benefit to the user, the end user. And the other thing is, on the firematic side, and I'm not a fire department guy, but I deal with it in other municipalities, is the fires that happen. The amount of cost it's going to take to have all of our fire utilities be brought up to today's standards with foam or whatever they got to use, and what does that lead to after a fire? PFOAs in the water system. So it's, I'm behind what you guys want to do with that.
Thank you. Yep, come on up. Yep.
Hi, Alan Rabasco, past board member. I also commend you guys on this, and don't feel in 6 months, if you haven't learned this, you're volunteers, it's a ton of stuff to digest. Don't feel if you need to extend it, you extend it. You have to learn what they've been working on to propose to sell it to us. I'm sure it's been several years, so we got to get it right. A mistake on this would be, huge, so I support it fully too. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Anybody else would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Sean Digg, live on Schuyler Drive, been here about 20 years. First I want to thank the board for hosting the education session that happened a few weeks ago. I think it was a really important resource. It's really great that that was recorded and online, and so people can go back. There's a ton of great information, and I highly recommend everyone to use that as a primer, and I mean, just to get started on what's going on. I don't think we need a moratorium. I think that we can move forward with thinking through what a model law looks like, and I know there's some thinking on that. There's some state proposed model laws already, and I think that should a project be proposed in that window of time, right? It has to go through a standard approval process at this point. So I don't think that we need the moratorium. I would like the town to move forward on a model law so that we do have a pretty standard way to do this and get public participation in that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Please, come on up.
Hi, I'm Scott Loveland. I've lived on Curtin Court for about 20 years. Thanks for having the public hearing. I watched the recording of that battery storage education session that you guys posted on the town website, and I thought it was very helpful, so I want to say thank you for providing that. It seems to me like most of the work's already been done on this. As of January, the New York State has the strictest and most comprehensive fire code in the country for battery storage. NYSERDA has created a robust and well thought out model zoning law. So it doesn't seem to me that there's any need for a moratorium or to reinvent the wheel on any of that stuff. Just, tweak the model zoning law and let's move on. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else would like to come up and speak? Yes, ma'am. Hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for allowing the public comment and for all the work and all of the listening. I have lived in the town for 26 years, and I hope that the town will not vote in favor of a moratorium. We heard a lot of really helpful information at the Best Special Education session that you hosted along with Sierra Club. That information was really compelling, I thought, and it was really clear. that LaGrange ought to be able to move forward rather than continue to delay. As long as the town conducts a thorough environmental impact assessment and really cite these things where they ought to be and not destroy pristine land, I think that the institution of BESS in LaGrange will help mitigate cost demands, especially during heat waves or really frigid temperatures, and will help to move us toward a more sustainable energy use. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Sussman. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm Kevin Haight. I am on the planning board, but I do own 300 acres right next to Schuyler Drive. And my understanding is it's not a matter of if we're going to have a fire with a battery storage place, but it's when. So I can put a lot of battery storage units on my 300 acres. And what's interesting is with a north wind, it's going to contaminate Schuyler Drive. And it's going to contaminate your wells. So I think we need to think really hard about whether or not we're going to do that, because there was a battery storage fire in Middletown, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It burned for like 6 weeks. And you can't put them out. So what you do is you pick up the fire and you move it someplace where it's not going to be inconvenient and let it burn itself out. So if you're going to let me, on my 300 acres, put, I don't know, a lot of battery storage units, it's probably not going to be, it's not going to bode well for Schuyler Drive, Overlook Road, Overlook School, Wappingers Creek, a whole lot of wetlands that we have on our property. So I'm thinking the Brownsfield idea would be absolutely terrific, because we've already contaminated
And
that.
it gets taxed commercially, not residentially.
So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else would like to? Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. Peter Turoff, 100 Memory Trail. I don't really have too much to say about what's already been said, but I did want to say I hope that the town board is working actively with the fire department on any laws or anything regarding this, because they're the ones who are going to have to handle the worst case situation. They're the ones who are going to have to make sure they're ready for it, that they're ready to handle toxic fumes and work with those and not get long-term illnesses from them. So I just hope that you consider working with the fire department on this issue closely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak? No? Okay. So just double checking, no one else, right? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Motion. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town board discussion. Councilman Ryan, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I think we just got to do some more research and make sure we're doing the right thing, put them in the right spot, and not jump forward and just put them anywhere.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
Councilman Conant?
I think we should find out where they should go. I like the brown spots. So I think we should do more research as well.
Okay. Councilwoman Robin, do you have any comments?
Yes. Just to reiterate, a 6-month moratorium does not mean we will never implement these things. And that we just would obviously request to do a little bit more due diligence on this because it is so important to the town.
Thank you. Councilman Giangrasso, do you have any comments?
Yes, I feel the same. I think that we should have more research on this, and 6 months is not, as Kelly said, going to squash the deal.
Okay. And I would comment, well, first and foremost, I appreciate everyone that did come up and speak, whether you're for or against it. I think it's really important that people express that openly. It helps the board understand the community better. We made this, from the beginning, we came out and said that the reality is we see these things popping up in a lot of communities. neighboring communities in Dutchess County and throughout the state. And I think the most important thing to note is that this is about public safety. It's very important to communicate with the fire department about this as well. We've seen issues in neighboring municipalities, or counties rather, and there's a lot to learn about this. And I think the most important thing for the community to know is that we want to take our time and do our due diligence because it is about public safety. So for me, I'm perfectly okay with putting in this moratorium in place. 6 months is not a lot of time, but it allows us the proper time to do our due diligence, to have our conversations with the LaGrange Fire District, to have our conversations with our attorney. And the public can continue to comment at meetings, during public comment. And then we can look at the laws, we can look at our zoning codes and see where we feel we want to go with this. So for those reasons, that's how I feel, and I'm prepared to take a vote on this. Do you have any other comments, board? No? So I'd like to make a motion for the moratorium, for resolution of adoption of the local law moratorium battery energy storage systems. Do you have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Yeah. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, resolution passed. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for speaking. This next presentation is our Town of LaGrange financial report. We have been working on our 2025 audit, which is almost complete, but we've also been auditing several years past. So I think this is a good opportunity, especially me as a new elected supervisor. I want to educate the public on our finances, explain to them our state, where we're at, and not only educate board members, but the community first and foremost, most importantly. So we do have Melissa here, who's going to present for us. She's from Connors Davies. She's one of our auditors, and she did prepare a very detailed report. And Melissa, I'm sure the board may ask questions during your presentation as we look through slides. So, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Works, perfect. So my name is Melissa Zott. I was the engagement partner on the 2024 audit and continuing on to the 2025 audit. What I have done here is prepared a PowerPoint slide. We're going to go over first the 2024 results. We have yet to present that to the board and the community, so we will start there first. Go high level on the general fund, just exactly what happened. Go into some more details on exactly the activities and the revenues, activities and expenditures. Then I want to touch on the 2025 audit. It's currently unaudited numbers, but I think it's important to show you the 5-year history and where we think it's going to end at 25. So just some required communications, which is part of this external audit process. First and foremost, there are certain responsibilities that management and those charged with governance has. Those charged with governance is the town board. So part of this external audit process is making sure that the accounting policies are selected and implemented appropriately. The financial statements, which have been issued for 24, making sure that they are presented in accordance with the United States generally accepted accounting principles. Internal controls are important at every organization, so making sure that they're not only established, but doing a periodic review to ensure that those controls are maintained. Ensuring compliance with all laws or regulations, any provisions of contracts and agreements that you enter into, and providing us as your external auditors with all of the financial records that we request. And the Comptroller's Office has been working well with the auditors. And probably the most important piece of responsibility is just setting a proper tone at the top, making sure there's high ethical values at the town and that that's communicated down to the town employees. So as your external auditors, we also have certain responsibilities through this external audit process. The deliverables are going to be the financial statements and the management letter. The financial statements include the independent auditor's report. We have issued for 24 an unmodified opinion, Sometimes you might hear that referred to as a clean opinion, and it is the best opinion that the town can receive during this audit. In one document, we have the required communications to those charged with governance, as well as the management letter, which includes any best practices. We are required to communicate any fraud or illegal acts that were identified during the audit. Of course, I would notify you prior to today, so I'm happy to report that there were none identified. There were no significant difficulties, no uncorrected misstatements, and no disagreements with management. So let's start with the 2024 general fund. What we have here is a 4-column schedule. Your original budget would be the budget adopted, plus any budget encumbrances that are included. Your final budget column, that's your second column, that would include any budget amendments or budget transfers that may have been adopted during the year. Your actual results are the third column, and then your variance with your final budget is going to be the last. So overall, your total revenues at the town originally adopted was about $6.4 million. That did increase during the year, but you actually only received $6.7 million. So from a budgetary perspective, on the last column, revenues came in under what you anticipated, almost $440,000. The two items really drove that. We'll see that on the next slide, but it was departmental income and mortgage tax. On your expenditures, so that's the cash going out of the town, you anticipated spending in your original budget almost $7 million. That did increase to 7.3. You actually spent 7.4, so from a budget perspective, you spent over about almost $150,000. And that was primarily on professional fees for the attorneys, which is also offset by some other small savings. We'll see that as well. You have some other financing sources and uses that would be transfers between the different funds that the town has. And then I want to focus on the net change in fund balance. That's going to be the third row from the bottom. You can see in the original budget, that's $600,000. And that was included in your original budget to utilize in order to balance the budget. So you anticipated using $600,000. In your final budget, that did increase about $17,000. You were anticipating using fund balance for the Public Works office. So at the end of the day, in your actual column, instead of using $617,000, you actually used almost $1.2 million. So you, from a budgetary perspective, on the last column, that's about $564,000 of a budgetary deficit. So you started out on your fund balance within your general fund about 2.4, but you ended at about 1.2. So let's talk about how we got there. These are your revenue categories. I have here the same columns, and then I also added the prior year column as well. Your real property tax came in as expected. That is your largest revenue source within the general fund. Your other tax items includes any interest and penalties on taxes. You also have a small pilot payment, and that came in as anticipated as well. Your non-property tax items, that is your second largest revenue, that came in slightly under, about $20,000. Your non-property tax includes your sales tax, which is of that 1.8, it is 1.6 million, so it's a majority of the non-property tax items. And your franchise fees is the other piece of that. Your departmental income, as we talked about on the previous slide, that is one of the larger variances on this slide. Your departmental income came under what you anticipated, about $155,000. Most of that was directly related to the planning board fees. So you anticipated receiving $250,000, but you only received $82,000. So it came under quite a bit. Your use of money and property includes your interest earnings, so any interest earned during the year, which also came in slightly under, but approximate. License and permits, most of that is going to be included in your building permits. Came in. Fines and forfeitures also came in as anticipated. Same with your sale, property, and compensation for loss. The sale is unbudgeted originally. It is challenging to budget for a line item like that. So the $68,000 that was received was for the insurance recovery on the damage at the park. So you were able to recoup some of those expenses. Your interfund revenues includes shared services with other municipalities. So those would be in agreement with what the contracts say. And then the next item is your state aid. You can see your state aid came under budget, about $250,000. This is directly related to your mortgage tax revenue. Your mortgage tax you budgeted for $800,000 revenue coming in, but you only received $543,000. So it is the main driver of that line item.
And then Melissa, just so from the public knows, when you're short like that, that $252,000 has to come from the general fund balance, correct?
Correct, unless you have other savings or other revenue sources that come in to help recoup. But you anticipate collecting $800,000, which would fund any appropriations that you anticipate.
Thank you.
Your federal aid, that was about $630,000. That is all of your American Rescue Plan Act funding. So that was recognized during '24. And then you have a small miscellaneous item, about $27,000. Most of that is related to your Community Day contributions. So overall, you can see on this slide of the $439,000 on your variance with final budget. The two items, as we talked about, were your departmental income, so that's your planning board fees, and your state aid, which is your mortgage tax. Okay. So let's go over your expenditures. That would be the money going out of the town. Same thing, there's a prior year column here for you, and these are by function. I'll dive in a little bit deeper. But you can see, as we talked about on the summary slide, there is one line item that is driving this overexpended line, and that is related to general government support. General government support is to account for all of the administrative and management services for the overall operation of the town. So included in that would be the town board, the town justice, the comptroller, so again, to operate the entire town. The line item of the $241,000 overexpended line is specifically related to the attorney fees. You expected to spend $120,000, but you actually spent $370,000, so much over what you anticipated. All of the other lines came in relatively on what you anticipated. Public safety includes your animal control and your traffic control. Health is your registrar of vital statistics. Your transportation would be your highway administration, your garage, and some street lighting. Most of your savings was in the garage department. Your economic opportunity and development or any programs for the aging. Your culture and recreation would include your parks, recreation, and your library. And you can see the savings of $44,000. That was mostly within your culture and recreation administration line item. Home and community services would include any zoning or planning board activities. And then you have your employee benefits. Employee benefits would include your health insurance, any retirement that helps fund the salaries within the general fund. And lastly is your bonds, your debt service. So that's your principal and interest on your outstanding debt. We do have a slide on your outstanding debt, so we'll go over that at the very end. But that did come in as anticipated, which it should because you have a schedule. Your total expenditures, under that is your transfers out. Again, that's your transfers to other funds. You had $458,000 that you transferred out. Majority of that, $450,000, went to the highway fund to fund equipment purchases, and most of that was related to the ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act, sorry. You can see there was a big drop on the transfer out. It was $1 million last year, and most of that was sent over to the Capital Projects Fund, which we will talk about as well. So that does sum up the 24 activity. I do want to go into the 25, just talk about the status of where we are today. We have done our preliminary audit field work on December 17th of 2025. That's where we come in and look at the controls of the town make sure that what the processes that are happening and that are being told to us are actually in place. So we do some sample test work as well. The final audit that will be in the upcoming weeks, that's where we look at the balances that we're reporting within the financial statement. So all the information I presented just recently, but for 25, we'll look at all of that information and test it substantively. So the final amounts on the following slides, they are unaudited, and they may change depending on any audit adjustments we may come across. But generally speaking, the overall trends are generally not expected to materially change. So I just want to make that point. Okay. So what we have here is your general fund balance. I've gone ahead and put together a 5-year history for you so you could see where the town has come from 2021 all the way through 2025. You can see again that 2025 is unaudited. You do have 4 different buckets in your general fund balance. Your first is non-spendable. That would entirely represent your prepaid expenditures. Prepaid expenditures would be something like if you pay your health insurance bill, but it covers both periods. So the $219,000 in your 2025 column, that is earmarked and will be spent in the following year. So it's not available to spend for the town. You do have a restricted category. Restricted is third-party restricted, legally restricted. So that is also earmarked. You have $102,000 specifically restricted for debt service. So that is something that the town can utilize to help pay down the principal and interest of your bond payments. Next would be your assignments. That would be internally assigned, so something by the town. Your purchase orders were about $1,500. If you have purchase orders at the end of the year, that will roll over into 2026 and increase your buying power for that. And that leaves us with your unassigned. Your unassigned essentially is free and clear. You could potentially consider it like a savings account of what you have to spend on certain activities or to plan accordingly. You can see that your unassigned preliminarily is at a deficit of about $78,000 within your general fund. You did drop from $563,000 in your unassigned to $78,000. You do have a fund balance policy. I put the reference down below. Your fund balance policy is taking your unassigned over the total adopted budget, and it should be anywhere between 25% and 40%. So it shouldn't be higher and it shouldn't be lower than that. You can see that we are projecting based on the unaudited numbers that the town will currently be at a negative 1% due to the fund deficit within the general fund. You can see in 21 you did start with about $4 million. And you came all the way down. Each year it was significant. I do want to point out there are 2 line items that say subsequent year's expenditures, one in debt service and then one in assignment. A subsequent year's expenditures is essentially during the budget process, you are anticipating your revenues coming under your appropriations, what you anticipate spending. So instead of finding different revenue sources, you're going to utilize the fund balance instead. So it's a planned use of essentially that $4 million is what you're planning to use in the following year. You did have in 21, in total, your debt service, $819,000 that you could use. And you can see that slowly was utilized, $300,000 in 21, $300,000 in 22, and $400,000 in 23. You also had unrestricted fund balance that was utilized in the assignment category, $200,000 in 22, $200,000 in 23, and $395,000 in 24. So I do want to show,
Melissa, I'm sorry to interrupt. So if you go back to that fund balance policy,
yes.
With the fund balance policy, that's 25 to 40% of the total adopted budget, excluding special districts, correct?
Yes, this would just be the general fund.
So you're looking at between town and highway around roughly $13 million. So at 30%, the policy saying that we should have roughly $4 million at 30%. So a fair estimate is like basically $2.5 to $4.5 million range based on the policy.
And this would just be for the general fund?
For the, right,
Mhm.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. I've gone ahead and created a chart, and this slide shows how the fund balance has changed over time, so that this was a little bit easier to see and digest. And you can see here, so the dark blue columns on the left, that's your 2020 ending fund balance, about 3.7. On the very, very right is your total fund balance, about 245,000. So the blue and the orange bars are the changes within those fiscal years. So while there was a positive result in 2021, you can see that with the blue bar going up, the town did experience operating deficits in each of the following years. These deficits reduced fund balance from 3.8 to 246,000. The dashed lines, the black dashed lines that are on the bars, that would represent your planned use. So what we talked about, your subsequent years' expenditures. So the black line is what you anticipate spending of your fund balance. And you can see your actual results in 22, 23, 24, and 25 are larger. So it's a larger deficit if you look down below that line. So your overall expected budget loss was almost $2 million, about $1.9 million of what you anticipated using of your fund balance. And covering these years from 2020 to 25, you actually lost about $3.6 million, or you used fund balance of $3.6 million. So it was about 1.7 more than what you anticipated. So what drove the decline? This shows the underlying driver of the deficits. Revenues essentially have remained flat over this period. That would be the blue line. The orange line is the expenditures. And you can see that the expenditures increased and have exceeded the revenues starting in 2022. This gap between your revenues and expenditures is essentially what drove the operating deficit that we saw on the previous slide. So I went through the analysis of the historical activities to identify what were the drivers of the general fund operating deficits. And I came across three primary drivers. First being your transfers and your capital support. There were some road paving and equipment costs over the years that also transferred to the capital projects fund to fund certain capital projects. Your road paving and equipment, you did end up spending $160,000 on the town hall window replacement, so that was done within that time period. For your capital project funding, you did end up spending about $750,000 in road paving, but there was also a transfer of road paving every year as well. There was about $300,000 of park equipment purchased. We saw that there was park repair on the previous slides. The capital transfer was significantly increased in 22 and 23. So just to go over some numbers of that, in 2021, your transfer to capital for current capital projects was only $200,000. But in 22, that jumped up to $900,000, and in 23, $1 million. And then in 24, it did drop back down to $8,000. So you've essentially funded those capital projects utilizing fund balance of the general fund. The second driver is increased operating costs. As we know, this is going to be right after COVID. We saw that the costs had increased. There was significant post-COVID inflation and increased costs. But ideally, what I looked at first was your professional and contractual services. Every year, it seemed that there were a significant amount of expenditures, specifically within the attorney fees. Each year, you budgeted between $90,000 and $120,000 from 22 to 25. but you actually spent between $200,000 and $380,000 each year. So significantly different. Ideally, when you do your budget, you should be looking at your historical costs, historical trends, and try to estimate what you anticipate the cost to be. You also had a significant increase in debt service. In 2022, you issued a $6 million bond, and then in 2023, you issued a $10 million bond. So that will increase your principal and interest costs over time. Again, as we said, your parks and recreation did have post-COVID increased costs. We did see that across the board at a lot of the municipalities that we audit. It did go from $1 million in 22 to about $1.4 million in 25. And then employee benefits. Employee benefits are always increasing. The rates are always going to be increasing for your health insurance, for the state retirement system, so that would also drive that. And then lastly is your flat or declining revenues. Your property taxes did stay flat. In some instances it did decrease. And in combination with that, you also had state aid that did decline. We talked about the mortgage tax on the previous slides. Your mortgage tax in 2021, as remember, the interest rates were very low back then, so there was a lot of home sales, which would increase your mortgage tax. So in 2021, you've collected $950,000. But looking at back at the 24th slide, we saw that was only $550,000, so it did decrease. And then 25, based on the unaudited numbers, it's about $510,000. Certain revenues trended below budget. So just talking about mortgage tax again, even though we talked about it started at $950, now you're at about $500,000. Each year you've budgeted to collect $800,000 in mortgage tax revenue. So it was not necessarily in line with historical trends. And then lastly, what we saw on the previous slide was the intentional use of the fund balance. It was included in the budget. It was intended to be used for the debt service as well as just to cover appropriations. So that is the financial picture of the general fund. I can pause here before moving on to the highway if you'd like, if there's any questions.
You guys have any questions? No. I'm good, Melissa. You can proceed, please. Yep.
Okay, great. So here's your highway fund balance. Again, I provided a 5-year history. I didn't see it necessarily a fund balance policy specifically for the highway. We generally see it for the general fund. There was also a decrease here. You started total fund balance $1 million. You ended about $176,000, again, unaudited. You do have the same categories: non-spendable, restricted for debt service, and assignments. Your assigned major funds, that would be considered your unassigned in your highway. So that would be what you consider as a savings account. So if you just look at the bold line, 2021, $919,000, which was about 19% of next year's budget. And then in 2025, it's projected to be $96,000, about almost 1.8% of the budget. So it shows a similar picture. Not necessarily declined as significantly as the general fund, but still pretty significantly. So similar chart here. I went through and did the decline as well. So again, the bold line in 2020 is your ending fund balance, $964,000, and then 2025 you ended at about $176,000. So you can see the decline in the most recent years. You did have a positive change in 21 and 22 by the blue bars. The dash lines represent the amount of fund balance that was planned to be used. So it did fluctuate. In 2021, you anticipated using $20,000, but you actually added $43,000. In 22, you thought you were going to use $60,000, but you added $99,000. Then as we get into 23, 24, and 25, you can see that you anticipated using a little bit less fund balance than you actually did. 2024, you did have a loss, but it was less of a loss than what you thought. So just looking at the overall picture from 2020 to 2025, looking at what you anticipated to spend, you did expect that you were going to utilize $960,000 of your fund balance over this period of time. You actually only used $787,000, and I think those positive years of 21, 22, as well as the lower loss of 24 than what you anticipated really helped keep the highway fund balance higher than what we would have seen with the general fund, for example. Like I said, you expected and planned to use $960,000, but you started out $964,000. So you would have essentially been left with $4,000 of fund balance. So the positive performances really helped the highway fund. So looking at the drivers, same thing, went back through the highway fund to see what 3 items really drove this. Again, planned and capital equipment spending. There were some planned purchases for your equipment, about $690,000 overall. In 22, you purchased $320,000 of equipment. In 24, $170,000, and 25, $200,000. So it was a significant amount each year. And then there were some transfers and capital needs as well that were larger than equipment items. Next is your increased operating costs and planned use. As we know, the inflation really impacted every fund, not just the general fund. But the transportation costs increased as well as your repairs. Your snow operations will fluctuate, which we'll talk on the next column, but your repairs overall within the time period was about $420,000 from 2020 to 25. And then your employee benefits, as we talked about, that will also increase, your rates will increase. Your debt service increased as well. Again, when you issue the debt, it covers multiple funds, so depending on the purpose of what the bond was issued for, it's going to impact not only your general fund, but your highway fund as well. And then as we saw on the previous slide, your use of fund balance, it was planned to use the $960,000 of fund balance. And then the other driver of the highway is going to be your operational and seasonal variability. We know that snow seasons are unpredictable. We had a really bad snow season this past year and light the year before, so it can be challenging to plan for something like that. Your CHIPS funding fluctuated. They are reimbursable expenditures, so just making sure that you're requesting all the reimbursements that you have available. And then repairs and maintenance variability, and that depends on use. If you're going to be using the equipment heavily, if it's a heavy snow, you're going to use the equipment that's going to require additional repairs. So moving on to the outstanding debt. This would be, again, we haven't finished the 25 audit, so this is going to be as of 12/31/24. The top chart shows the current outstanding debt as of December 31st, 24. There are several bond issuances. 2 of them at the top are refunding, so you were able to basically refinance them for a lower rate. The total of your outstanding debt is about $24.5 million. As we know, the interest rates have been increasing over time, so that's why you can see the most recent were about 4%. Still lower than what I've seen 5% as well. So, and then lastly, on the bottom portion of the slide, your payments to maturity. It is broken out by fund, so you can, as I mentioned, your bonds are going to impact your general fund, your highway fund, but it also impacts your special districts funds as well. Essentially, each fund, the project that the bonds are funding are going to be paid back by the fund that it's paying for, that it's benefiting. So the percentage of the budget, that percentage down below, we essentially take the next year's principal and interest payments, so that's your principal and interest by fund, and we take that and divide it by next year's budget to really get a gauge on what percentage you're at. The state controller won't necessarily provide a guide or anything in writing as a guidance of where you should be, but approximately anywhere between 4% or even like an 8 or 9%. It just really depends on the needs of the town. A town who has more capital needs can go out and bond, will have a higher percentage than those who do not. So the general fund is about 5.9%. That's approximately where I would see it to be, your highway fund is a little bit higher. I did go through some of my municipalities as well to see, and highway was generally slightly higher than the general fund in most cases, just because there's so many capital needs in the highway fund. Your special districts, however, is almost 51%. So essentially that means the revenues that are coming into the special districts, half of that is being utilized to pay principal and interest payment. So it is high at this point. That does conclude my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, do you have any questions for Melissa? Anything particular on the slides?
Tighten our belt.
You have any questions?
Not right now.
No? I do, well, thank you. I do have some comments, some remarks that I'd like to make for the community. So as your newly elected town supervisor, I want to begin by addressing the most critical point from our financial presentation, is that the town did not follow its fund balance policy. This is a serious concern as we are actively working to correct it. Establishing discipline and accountability in how we manage our reserves is a top priority, and it will guide many of the decisions we make moving forward. As seen in the presentation, year over year, there have been shortfalls across multiple budget lines which require drawing down the general fund, along with instances of going over budget lines. This pattern is not sustainable, and it underscores the importance of tighter financial controls and better long-term planning. We also have to be more deliberate about when bonding is appropriate, particularly for vehicle and equipment purchases that may not make sense over the lifespan of those assets. Bonding something for 30 years when that piece of equipment may not last 10 or 15, we have to try to stay away from that, because as you can see, you're going to be paying interest and principal for a long time, and these rates are unfortunately have gone up. I want to extend my thanks to Ms. Zott for her thorough and professional presentation. Her work has helped clearly outline the financial challenges we are facing and gives us a foundation to move forward responsibly. It's important for our residents to understand that the financial scenario is complex. Making decisions in this environment is not easy. Every decision we consider will be carefully vetted with our town comptroller before any action is taken. We are committed to ensuring that each step we take is thoughtful, measured, and in the best long-term interest of the taxpayers. The financial course set over the past 4 years cannot be corrected in 4 months, perhaps not even 1 year. However, we are making improvements every single day, and it's important that our taxpayers know the progress is underway. We have already taken meaningful steps. I'm currently working with our Highway and Recreation Department to establish a capital plan, along with a capital reserve fund. What a capital plan is coming up with a document that all of our equipment that we own, we understand what we own, we understand how old it is, what our expected life cycle is, and then what we expect that we need to buy, not just 1 year from now, but 2 years from now or 3 years from now. Working on creating a capital reserve fund is also something that's very important, because we know that there's going to be equipment that eventually we're going to need. And some of this equipment costs several $100,000, in some cases $500,000 or more. And if we can identify our current state with our fleet and know where we want to be in 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years, we can save money accordingly year over year. So rather than just saying, okay, we need to buy a piece of equipment and let's bond for 30 years, we can actually save every year $50,000, $75,000, so that in 4 or 5 years, we can pay for this equipment when needed outright in cash, instead of continuously bonding. So we've had these conversations where we're working on some ideas and thoughts so that we can plan major purchases in years advance. This will allow us to properly manage and save funds, helping us avoid short-term borrowing through bans and reduce the need for bonding. Our highway superintendent is implementing cost-saving strategies daily while still maintaining a high standard of care and maintenance throughout the town. An example of that was recently there was a truck that was identified that we would have liked to have purchased, but at a purchase price of around $90,000. Our highway superintendent came up with some other thoughts. We spent $14,000, we fixed the truck, and hopefully we get a few more years out of it. So this is the mindset that we're bringing to the town. These are the things that we're trying to do. At the same time, we are auditing pre-existing contracts and consistently putting services out to RFP, request for proposal, to ensure we're getting the best value. We have also reviewed our fee schedules and continue to make appropriate adjustments where necessary. Some of these fee schedules have not been updated in 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 years. When you don't update something for 4 or 5 years, I think we can all understand that what something cost 5 years ago isn't what it costs today. Everything keeps rising. You have to stay with the rate of inflation. Otherwise, you're going to run into issues, as you can see on those graphs, where expenditures are outpacing revenues. So you need to draw the line somewhere. We've identified many of these concerns early on, and we're actively working to change them. We've already changed some of them. We're aggressively pursuing grant opportunities wherever possible to offset costs. We've applied for several grants. In addition, we have secured several new agreements that will result in savings and improved protections for the town, including a sludge hauling agreement, a dog control agreement, and a partnership with Muntz Mansion, all designed to protect us with our liability, cost-saving measures, etc. So whenever we have an opportunity that comes in front of us, we've sent it out to RFP, and we've found very quick and early that we're saving money. Legal fees have cost taxpayers a tremendous amount of money over the course of 4 years. In 2022, $90,000 was budgeted. However, the town spent $213,000. That's 137% over budget. In 2023, $90,000 was budgeted. The town spent roughly $242,000. That's 168% over budget. In 2024, the town budgeted $120,000. The town spent roughly $372,000. That's a 209% increase over budget. In 2025, the town budgeted $120,000. The town spent $381,000, which was a 217% increase over budget. So in the last 4 years, almost $800,000 over budget for legal fees. Additionally, recently, to try to save money and find ways, I recently visited the Toshiba site in Newburgh with our town clerk and our town comptroller to evaluate new copier equipment for town hall. If approved, this change would result in a cost savings of approximately $8,000 to $10,000 compared to the current proposal that we received at 0% interest. This is just one example of the due diligence that we are applying across all areas of spending. We spent about a half hour at the site. We're actually going to get better equipment, 0% interest, and based on the current proposal that we have received from the current equipment, it would save us about $8,000 to $10,000. So putting a little time, putting a little effort, you know, 8 to 10 grand doesn't sound like a lot of money, but if you can continuously get little wins here, little wins there, try to save some money, we're trying our best. I'm trying my best to do that. Transparency has been a priority since day one. We broadcast our meetings. We provide residents with multiple opportunities to speak, and we'll be implementing, actually we implemented this today, so I don't know if any of you got the email, a new digital software that allows the public to view all active projects before the planning board. Keeping our community informed is essential as we work through these challenges. Moving forward, we must remain focused on saving money and spending it wisely. While the situation I inherited cannot be fixed overnight, we are committed to making steady, responsible progress and building a stronger future for our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're all set, Melissa.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for all your time and energy on this. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Might need a minute to breathe after that. Again, as you all can see, I think it's just very important for everybody to understand where we're at, stuff that we're identifying. It's important to educate the public on this. We're all taxpayers, we all live here, and we need to know how this money is spent, why it's spent, and what we can do. So I appreciate you all being patient to listen. As we move on with our agenda meeting, correspondence, there is none. Let's see, supervisor comments, I'll keep this quick. From our Open Space Committee, Dwayne Byer and Dieter Lucas have successfully filed a grant application, will continue to keep us updated on the status. We appreciate their ongoing efforts and dedication. I had the opportunity to attend several wonderful community events recently, including Trash Bash, the Overlook Fishing Derby, and our Spring Expo. I'd like to extend a sincere thank you to the LaGrange Rotary Club and all the volunteers who collected over 30 bags of trash. It was great to see our community come together for such a meaningful cause. The Fishing Derby, organized by the Federation of Dutchess County Fishing Game Club, provided a fantastic weekend of fun for veterans and families. I attended with my children. They had an amazing time while catching a few fish. Full of mud too, by the way, plenty of mud. Events like this truly highlight the value of our parks and experiences they offer to the residents. Our Spring Expo was another tremendous success. Thank you to our Parks and Rec Director, Sandy Washburn, and all of her staff, featuring activities for all ages, including live music, a petting zoo, interactive tables for the kids, and great food. And we walked on the trail with my kids, and they found a bunch of, what was it? Yeah, exactly. So that was great. I also like to recognize the LaGrange Fire District for their participation and generosity in providing giveaways, such as sunglasses, which my son loved, hats, drawing kits, and ID kits for children. We are grateful for all that they do and support and protect our community. Lastly, I want to congratulate two outstanding members of the LaGrange Fire District who were recognized at the Dutchess County EMS Council 2026 EMS Awards. ALS Provider of the Year, Nate Herring-Trott, and Harriet Weber EMS Leadership Award went to Joanne Siebert. So let's give them a nice round of applause. Their dedication and service are truly commendable, and we are proud to have them represent our community. So thank you. All right, we're going to keep it going for our proclamation for the month of May. So I'll take a moment and read this real quick as well. Proclamation declaring May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas mental health is essential to the well-being of individuals and the strength of our community, and whereas mental health conditions affect people of all ages and backgrounds, and early support and access to care can greatly improve quality of life. And whereas stigma surrounding mental health continues to prevent individuals from seeking help, and whereas Mental Health Awareness Month provides an opportunity to promote understanding, encourage open dialogue, and support those in need. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Town Board of the Town of LaGrange hereby declares the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month, and be it further proclaimed that all residents are encouraged to raise awareness, reduce stigma, and support mental health initiatives within the community. Thank you. You want that? Sure. Okay, so we're going to move on to our agenda. So this next opportunity is for anyone in the public that would like to comment on anything that's an agenda item specifically, that's on your sheet there. We would ask that you keep it to 3 minutes, address it to the board. Do I have a motion to open the public comment for agenda items only?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Would anyone like to come up and speak on agenda items, any of the agenda items?
Does that include the financial report?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Rick Hugh, Town LaGrange. Thank you for the presentation for the financial report. It's nice to have the transparency. I am, very concerned with $800,000 in legal fees. I'm very curious, and I'm sure it can't be divulged, what that is regarding. Second is, I have great concern with 60% of the town board still being active from previous town boards. You have 3 board members that have been on this board for several years that have, I guess, contributed to this mismanagement. So I have concern, and has an audit been done previously that was just ignored? Or was it just not completed or not heeded? These are some very concerning numbers that is going to greatly affect the residents of this town in taxes. They went up almost 20% this year, and I'm guessing by what you're saying, it's probably be another 20% for the next year or two as well. So I kind of look into incompetence or ignorance on the previous board. Sorry. Thank you.
And I will do everything in my power to prevent a situation like that. But again, the most important thing is the public needs to know, and I want you to know, I've only been in office for 4 months, so it's important to educate each other. But moving on, would anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome to the new board, not the same as the old board, and the supervisor. If I was in that seat too, the very first thing I would have done would be an audit. Very enlightening. As a classic car guy, just a car guy in general, and that highway budget, which isn't the biggest part of that last slide. We hate the salt, man, and you want to save money, the old rule of thumb would be a corporate or be a city is, if you don't spend it, you're going to lose it, and you want to get your budget 10% more next year. That's been going on for 30 years I've been here. And while we had a wicked winter, I'll agree, some of those days with pure rain, and man, that salt was laid down, and I live on the county road, and there was like nothing. Go around the corner, the old Pleasant Valley Road, which is that one house on the street. I mean, you might as well walk the Sahara. And even 55, which had a lot of salt, they're probably second in terms of spending it. And then I look to our neighbors in Connecticut, which are a lot cheaper taxes, no income tax. They throw sand, a lot cheaper. So if you zero that budget, net zero budget every year, cut that salt rate hell down. It's killing my classic cars and my car, number one. Number two, the other bonding that is the big nut are those special water districts. And that's been going on for more than the 30 years I've been here. Thank God I have my own well, or I'll have to drink out of the rain barrel. But all I could say is I guess those water bills are going to go up. And I don't think they've probably been raised in quite a long time. I'm guessing, based on the bonding that was going on there. Other than that, thanks for that audit, and welcome.
Thank you. And I will say that we did have a really bad winter, but our newly elected highway superintendent does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
He's every day finding ways to save money. The salt, it was very difficult to get salt this year. Although we had it, sometimes you look to buy a little bit more as the season goes, and you see it all over the place. Salt skyrocketed. John did cut and use sand. He did it very early on after we found 2. So to your point, very wise, very smart point, we have implemented that to try to save some money. It takes a little more work to clean up the roads, but they were out in the last few weeks. But we don't mind doing that if we can save, a couple $100,000 on salt. So I appreciate that comment. Yes, Andy, come on up.
Sandy Washburn, Parks and Recreation Director. First, I want to say hey and thank you to my friends in the audience from the Federation for all you guys do. Awesome fishing weekend, and just really enjoy partnering with them. I want to take a couple of minutes just to address the budget. From my standpoint, there was, comments on the increases in Parks and Recreation. First, I want to say thank you to Anthony, to our new supervisor. Incredibly hands-on, the number of conversations we've already had. You've been downstairs with me reviewing how I track our finances and how we run our budget in Parks and Recreation. So great respect for what you're doing, and certainly handled a very difficult situation. For me, finding all of this out was a real punch in the gut for someone who works with incredible passion and a tremendous amount of hours in this position and take it very seriously. This is the 3rd municipality I've worked for. I started 12 years ago here in the town of LaGrange, 12 years ago last month, and I have put together right from day one. What I have been told is the most detailed budget from any department in the town, from the standpoint of line items, from the standpoint of submitting comparative years. I turn in a budget that has 3 running years so you can see increases. It's color-coded. We have our own system downstairs where we track and manage internally, designed by me. Incredible work by Trish, my assistant director. We detail every single dollar that we spend to the appropriate line item in the budget. I can tell you on any given day how much money we have left in a line item. I've been told for years that LaGrange was fiscally in great shape. We had all this money. Then the lawsuits started coming. The lawsuits started coming. I requested every single year that I have worked here a budget review. Every comptroller, and there have been 3 of them now that I've worked for, can tell you that. And it's been denied every single year. The only municipality I've ever worked for where you don't get to actually sit and present to the board that's going to vote on your budget what your budget is. So last year, I put in writing a summary, a budget summary, to try to get someone to listen to me because I don't get the opportunity to actually speak to the board about my budget. And I know that Anthony is going to change that, and I'm grateful for that, and just letting you know. So you're going through creating all these great new programs, and you're expanding camps, and you're doing all of these things, and suddenly you're broke. So to those who voted on that, and to those who allowed that to happen, embarrassing and shameful. Shameful. You didn't hold yourselves to the same accountability as I'm expected to hold myself to for every taxpayer dollar that I manage. And in almost 20 years of municipal work, I've never gone into a contingency budget, not one time. So that's what I'll say about that today. As far as increases after COVID, a few things I'd like to highlight for the audience who is here. We have grown our camp from 100 campers to 150 campers. With that comes increases to every expense line. And I see the guy over there cheering for me, raising his hand. Thank you very much. Our camp is phenomenal. It costs money to run an incredible camp. It costs money in training. It costs money in additional staff. Those 50 kids, we have to meet ratios with the health department. There's a lot of things that went into that. Mind you, presented every year to the budget, to the board. We've grown different things that we do internally. We service equipment in a different way now. One of my senior groundskeepers, so that costs some money to staff, to gear up what we needed in the shop to do more of our own servicing so that we didn't have to send that out, which yes, overall is a savings, but it is an expense at the time that you're setting up being able to do that. We have grown our events phenomenally. I mean, if you have been to our fall festivals and to our events, our parade, those things cost money to operate to the point where that many people in the park requires not only security, but it requires a parking staff, it requires a different security detail, all of the things that have to happen, and that's easily thousands of dollars that was added to our budget to be able to manage those events appropriately. We have aging playgrounds. Our playground expenses have gone up significantly over the last handful of years as our playgrounds are reaching that 10-year-old mark or older. I asked permission of the prior supervisor to put a storm recovery line in the budget because if you know Freedom Lake, you know it's not if, it's when it's going to flood and become trashed, and we have to recover that and get that back. That one year cost over $13,000 that I had to pull from other areas of the budget. So in addition to the budget that was significant was for storm recovery, we have not qualified for FEMA with recent storms, and the money has to come from someplace. So at the end of the year, when you saw like $44,000 or a certain amount of money going back, if that line item is not expended for what it is appropriated for, do our very best to just return that money back at the end of the year, and that does not get spent. We do work very closely to try to review what we are spending with different outside contractors every year. We put out RFPs or bids where it's appropriate, where it's required. We put out We do our own internal research. Trish is a bulldog and phenomenal at tracking money, researching every year. We switched our porta potty company that we had worked with for many years 2 years ago, because that was a significant savings to us to give a new company a try. That is how we operate Parks and Recreation. So I just want to say, and we do that with septic pumping, with tree work, with so many of those services across the board. I keep very detailed notes in my office. We keep our own files in addition to what goes upstairs to the comptroller's office. I'm very proud of how we manage the budget. But the increase in the budget has been not only post-COVID crazy expenses, but has been increased based on growing services to the town. Senior services, which we never used to have. Not the senior center, because that's going to be just newly realized as an addition, but bus trips, senior socials, a number of different things that we have done. So I know I've gone over my 3 minutes. So wasn't quite expecting, I saw the report in advance, but I just wanted to answer to the people in the audience that very much in my opinion and in the opinion of comptrollers that I have worked with, the Parks and Recreation budget dollars are very carefully tracked, accounted for, and managed to what we feel is the best service that we're providing to the community. We are looking at trying to shave back in some different areas. Anthony, I've had a lot of conversations about that, how we can still do our best to put out that experience and that product that the community expects from us, with still looking to see where we can, jump on board and try to help correct this mess that we have found ourselves in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandy. Sandy, you do a phenomenal job, and the town of LaGrange is blessed to have you as director of the Parks and Rec. I can't tell you how many times I come to work, maybe late night, I got to finish up some stuff, and I'm here, show up at 8 p.m., and her car's in the parking lot. At least a dozen times I've seen that. She puts in a lot of hours. I spend a lot of time downstairs. We come up with ideas. We want to do more. We want to find ways to save money to do it. We get a lot of sponsors. We're very happy and proud of that the community supports. That helps offset the budget. We've had outside funding for the senior center, where people are funding the senior center through donations, which doesn't force us to have to use this budget. We can save the money. So we have this mindset. We're trying very hard, and it's little wins. We get a $5,000 here, $10,000 there. So you work very hard. I know that, and I appreciate it. So thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on any of the agenda items? Yes, ma'am.
Hi there.
Hello.
My name's Ann Berger. I actually live in the town of Poughkeepsie, so thanks for letting me speak at your meeting this evening. I just wanted to share a little bit. I used to be on the board in the town of Poughkeepsie. I just wanted to share a little bit about my where the town actually passed a BESS resolution. Initially, there was a 6-month moratorium, and then after that time, they did institute a code regulation and allow BESS in the town. But during that time, I learned a ton about BESS. So just one or two quick points I just wanted to share with you. We're neighbors, basically. I live right down the road in the town of Poughkeepsie. Dutchess County does not have an emergency response plan for a BESS fire. They rely on each municipality to sort of do their own thing, do their own training. So in the event of a huge emergency, I'm not sure how the county would respond in a way that would put out a major fire. That involves the state roads, the county roads. If the municipalities aren't talking to one another and the county doesn't have a plan, what does that really look like in the event of a huge scale fire? The other thing that I learned, because I did a deep dive into all this, was there are different types of BESS. We all know that there's the large scale ones, the ones we're talking about allowing, or you guys were talking about allowing in your town, and maybe someday you will. There's really no benefit to the taxpayer if it's not solar. So if you have a battery energy storage system that's connected to a substation, which is how a lot of them look in these municipalities, a company is going to come in, they're going to lease the land from somebody, they're going to put their giant batteries there, it's going to tie into the substation, it's going to take energy in times of low demand, store it, and then sell it back to Central Hudson in times of high demand. And the only people really winning are not you and I. The taxpayers are not going to see any savings on their Central Hudson bill. The people winning are Central Hudson, the landowner, and then the battery energy storage system. So from a taxpayer perspective, you're not really going to see any savings. So those are just the 2 points I wanted to add to the conversation. I heard some of I got here a little bit late, but I think the concerns around fires, and until the cooling system can be perfected in these things, I think it's a safe idea to wait. So thank you guys for listening. The last thing I'll say is my kids went to camp here, even though I lived in the town, and for 8 years I would wait outside as an outside resident to be able to get my spot in that camp at Freedom Lake because we absolutely loved it. Sandy was here at the time, so I can't say enough good things about it. That's just a side note. Thank you.
very much.
Would anyone else like to come up and speak on any of the agenda items? No? Oh, yep, yes, sir.
Just on the budget, real quick.
Yep.
I think you have the right mindset with the capital plan. That has to be forecasted out 5 years, and on your special districts, you should have it too. Whoever's making the decision for your special districts that has 16 million in debt, that's going to drive the ratepayers big time. And that checks and balances is key. Obviously, it's political when you're trying to stay below the 2% tax cap, so we know why the fund balance has gone down over the years. Someone's got to stand up and not kick the bucket down the road and just do it.
Yep.
And say, all right, we can't make 2% tax cap. We have to go the other way, or else we're going to pay a ton in interest.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, I don't think there's anyone else on agenda, right? No?
I got one more thing
Yes,
about
sir.
that budget. Can you put the attorneys, it's always been Vanderwerf for 30 years. Can you put the attorney out for an RFP? Just picture some young, brand-new, living in Beacon attorney that just got a job, works for Morgan & Morgan. Put it out for bid. Thank
A
you.
lot of those fees are directly tied into litigation too. Litigation matters, the town has many of those ongoing. That's where a lot of that lump sum money is tied into. So, but I appreciate the comment. All right, so it looks like we're going to close the motion to close the public comment on agenda items. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. All right, so agenda items. So at the beginning of the meeting, we added the agreement performance bond for stormwater facilities for Gray subdivision. Shane, can you just kind of give a brief update this project and how the planning board approved it and kind of what they're looking for?
So this is a project that the planning board had a tree restoration bond in place for. Those improvements were completed. Now this is a new bond for stormwater improvements, stormwater facilities at that same subdivision. There's already a bond in the amount of $84,231 in place. What's before you tonight is essentially rolling that from the tree restoration bond into the stormwater facilities bond. The planning board's approved this. The town engineer has signed off on the amount, so everything appears to be in order, and it'll secure those improvements to make sure they're made. That's the purpose of it.
Yeah. Any questions or comments on that? That's pretty straightforward, right?
Just one thing, and Christina and I talked about this. I just think if we're going to approve this, we should put in, there's a little note in here about when the last time the subdivision map was amended or revised. It hasn't been revised, so we should add NA, and then we should also add a date to the bond. All right?
Okay.
So just before we do that, so.
Do you want me to say that?
Yeah, just
okay.
to add
All right, so do I have a motion to accept the performance bond stormwater facility for Gray subdivision, adding the date on the bond as well as NA?
Yep.
Yeah.
Motion second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, resolution passed, thank you. Okay, these next four, they're all similar. Historically, we've done this with non-for-profits throughout the years. They are fee waiver requests and use of Freedom Park. I'll just give you a rundown and then we can kind of go through it a little quicker. You have Angels of Rock. You have the Grange Historical Society, which is doing their Rev 250 on July 5th. That'll be an exciting event. You have Vale Farm Elementary School, and then you also have the Goals for Hope Committee Soccer Tournament at Stringham Park. So we'll vote on these individually, but these are all, we can put them all together? Oh, okay, even better. Goals for Hope at Stringham Park. So this is a consideration of a fee waiver request. Do I have a motion to accept this motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. That was easy. All for it. Okay, let me just catch up real quick.
Animal control.
Okay, this next one is a consideration of approval of the LPI funds. So this is from the Recreation Department for McGee Park Storage Shed. Our director is asking for board approval to use LPI funds for a new shed storage building at McGee Park. We are working in partnership with Grange Little League and would be splitting the cost of the structure with them. I've met several times with Grange Baseball. The amount of work and money that they put back into our fields, it's unbelievable. These sports leagues pay, I want to say it's around $5,000 a year contract, whether it's soccer, baseball, you have football. I don't think football, is football 5,000? Football, and then lacrosse is a little less, 2,500. So that's what they're paying to rent these fields. But what they also do, and baseball and soccer, and they all do something, but baseball and soccer do a lot. They pour a lot of their money that they get back into these fields. In some cases, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year, where they're helping maintain the fields. They're helping maintain the grass with companies. So they're reinvesting into our parks as well. So it's a great partnership, strong communications. They do a phenomenal job. It's all volunteer-based. You know, my kid plays baseball. You know, you see all families involved. They're helping out. So they take a lot of pride in it. We're very lucky. It's still a very strong program. So the Parks and Recs director is requesting that we put half the money with them for this shed cost, which would cost the LPI fund $1,435. I think that's excellent. So the Grange is paying, baseball league's paying the other half. So to my point, they put a lot of money back into it. Do I have a motion to accept this?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, great, thank you. All right, this we spoke about earlier in the year. I kind of spoke on it as well a little earlier today. We had an agreement from last year for our dog officer. This is an agreement that we share with Hyde Park, Beekman, Pleasant Valley, Town of Poughkeepsie, and Town of Clinton. A lot of municipalities. The salary of this officer is $60,000. This agreement was done last year. It was up for renewal. I looked at it early on. There was a lot of questions that I had that I didn't necessarily agree with. The dog officer uses a town vehicle, Town of Grange, taxpayer vehicle, and they go all throughout the county to these other municipalities. I think we needed to define the literature and the language a little bit more in this agreement that we felt was a little more, I guess you can say, fair. There's also depreciation on the vehicle that wasn't in this agreement. Our comptroller is remitting the bills to these that cost time and money. The comptroller is our salary as taxpayers, right? So I think it was important to kind of get some leverage there to get some more money and coverage from these other municipalities, which they were all amazing to work with. So we have this new agreement. They all signed on to it. So it's a win. It's a better, stronger agreement for us as a town, basically. So does anybody have any questions or comments? I mean, we've been kind of working on this one for like 3-4 months.
Yes, I remember, yep.
So it's a good agreement. Do I have a motion to accept this?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Resolution passed. Let's see. This next one here, it's a consideration of a request for a part-time unpaid Justice Court Clerk Summer Intern. So we like that word, unpaid. It costs us any money. This is from Justice O'Hare. He's requesting the appointment of Piper Bollner to the position of part-time clerk. She will be working 20 hours a week for 6 weeks as a non-paid summer intern. So we need more interns. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Yep.
And yeah, okay. Okay. Consideration of appointment of Ellen Wagner. Thank you, Ellen. As the CAC liaison to the planning board. Ellen has been a long member of the CAC liaison. She's very involved in the community. She dedicates a lot of time. All these events that we do at the park, she's always there. She has a table. She's educating the community and the kids. We greatly appreciate your time and sacrifice for our town. and Ellen stepping up as a liaison to the planning board, which will help increase communication. So when these projects come forward, Ellen will be getting all these documents. She'll be sharing it with the CAC. Just stronger communication overall. So do I have a motion to appoint Ellen to the CAC, as a CAC liaison to the planning board?
Motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay, and we're kind of wrapping up the appointments on our Veterans Advisory Committee. These are going to be the last 2 seats as of right now, and everyone's going to be getting to work. So we have a consideration of appointment of Wayne Mellish and Dave Rogers to the Veterans Advisory Committee. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, thank you so much. Looking forward to working with everyone. Okay, that concludes our agenda items. Town board comments and discussions. Councilwoman Robin, anything?
No.
Councilman John Grasso?
Yes, first, I apologize again, Sandy, I missed our meeting last Thursday, but to touch on Parks and Rec,
Oh, that'll be the liaison report.
Over there, I'm ahead of myself.
But
Thank you.
it's okay, yeah. Any other comments
Thank you,
before we move on to liaison? Okay. Franco, you want to go with liaison reports?
Again, thank you, Sandy. So I attended both the Fish Derby and the Spring Expo. Excellent. Walking there and watching all the kids with big smiles on their face was very enjoyable. And the Spring Expo, Sandy, I don't know how you and your team did it, but it was, what a great day. Thank you for that. Our senior center, again, is up and running Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:30 to 1:30. We have the Grange Community Day with fireworks on June 13th. We have a senior social Wednesday, June 24th. And our basketball camp starts June 29th. We're having a basketball camp. And we also, I found out, we're having swimming lessons starting July 6th.
Wow.
So if you need to know any other information on this, contact the rec department, get a hold of Sandy, she'll let you know. Also, again, our 250th anniversary was July 5th at Freedom, and looking for sponsorships if anybody wants to sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you, Franco. Councilman Ryan, you have an update for us on open space and CAC?
Yeah, we had a Zoom meeting the other night. Most of us were all there in attendance. And then we had a battery energy storage. Everyone that came to the meeting there we had, and everyone was well in tune with what was going on. And then we had a climate policy report on Albany, rallying support for climate leadership and Community Protection Act. Concern raised about the delays in the implementation of the debate over the cause of the rise in energy costs. And then we had town and planning board activity. Arlington Estates issued a unauthorized work permit, but that was actually with a well they were putting in and testing. They just needed a way to get the well truck in, so that was really not a issue over there. They were just, some people got a little up in arms. And then the Greenway Trail, concerns about rerouting the trails. And then we're thinking about trying to do something with the bridge there over on, with the flatbed trailer for donations getting for that. And then the rest of it, we had a little thing with the nesting thing, building the bird houses. And we wrapped up the meeting there at 8 o'clock that one night at CC, and that's it.
Thank you, Councilman Ryan. Councilwoman Robin, do you have any update on building and zoning?
Not today.
No? Okay. Couple things I forgot to mention under town board comment, I'll just say quickly. Memorial Day, we have a Memorial Day ceremony on Memorial Day at 11 a.m. at Town Hall. We post that on the website under community news, so please share it with everyone. It's a beautiful ceremony, so we look forward to that. And then also today, we sent out a press release earlier this afternoon, or rather late this afternoon. The Munich Collab software is live, up and running. So if you go on the town website, you click on departments, you go to planning board, you'll see on the bottom right through applications, it will list every single application that is currently in front of the planning board. You'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of documents, supporting documents, maps. You can learn about every current active project, and it's going to eliminate having to foil documents, foil a plan. You know, it'll be very easy to get up to speed on a project that's been sitting in front of the planning board for 10 years, 20 years. You know, you'll have, for example, a project like Town Center. I would imagine there'll be hundreds of documents on there. It's up and running, it's live. So if anyone's interested, take a look at it. I think it's great, very exciting, and I think it's going to be very helpful for the community. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Town Attorney?
I have nothing.
Nothing? Okay. All right, so before we open up the public comment, I do want just say something quick for the record. We recognize that there are strong concerns being expressed regarding a zoning amendment application that was on the agenda last month. And I want the community to know those concerns are being heard. We also want to be clear. No decision has been made on this rezone application. The process is in the same review process that was outlined from the beginning, and it includes input from multiple boards, including the Planning Board, Dutchess County Department of Planning, and the Town Planner review to ensure a thorough and informed evaluation. The reason proposals are reviewed rather than simply denied at the outset is because the town must base its decisions on a complete record, including professional review and public input. This ensures that any final decision is informed, fair, and transparent. The town must ensure that due process is given to everyone. Referring the proposal for planning board review does not indicate approval. The town board retains full authority to approve or deny the proposal. We are committed to making decisions that reflects the best interest of the town as a whole, and public input is a very important part of that process. So I want to thank everyone who has spoken and will speak. At this time, we ask that all comments remain respectful, focused on town business, and free from interruptions or personal remarks so that the board can ensure everyone has an opportunity to be heard in an orderly process. Please keep comments up to 3 minutes and address to the board. Thank you. Do I have a motion to open the public comment?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Anybody? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good evening, board members. Mark Komorski, Commissioner of the Grange Fire District. I just want to follow up and make some comments. January meeting, I presented the need for a new sprinkler system code and a new standpipe code to be put on the books. For those of you who don't know, water is the greatest threat to fire. So that was on the January meeting, presented the need for that. At the February meeting, I submitted, as a request from the supervisor, the actual codes to be put on the books. At the March meeting, the chief attended and asked the status of the codes, which we still don't have on the books, and he was told that you're working on a lot of different things. It's now May, and my main concern is life safety, structure safety, the safety of our staff members, firefighters, first responders, and associated first responders that come on mutual aid. We really need to have this done, and I was concerned to find out why 5 months later we still don't have those two codes on the books.
Absolutely. I thank you for your comment. We did speak earlier in the year. We were hoping to have a presentation in April. It was planned, and then unfortunately it wasn't able to happen. Shortly thereafter, I did ask to speak. I told the chief and asked if he would like to present in May. And I actually am meeting the chief tomorrow for a meeting, and I've said it multiple times. You put forward these codes, which again, public safety, very important. What's important for us as a board is, and I think it's important for the community, to educate us on these codes, laws that the board is interested in seeing us adopt. I think that's very important. I think it's important for the community as well to learn about these laws, the standpipe law, the sprinkler law. We as a board can't meet outside of town hall for one person or two people, so I felt that it was as per open meetings law to do a workshop session. I also mentioned that to the chief last week, and I'll reiterate it again. We're happy to do a workshop session where I think the town board can sit with the LaGrange Fire District and any personnel that would like. We can schedule it whenever you guys are ready, and we can discuss these laws, absolutely.
Well, with all due respect, it's a code, actually, 2 codes, actually, but you have an expert in the building, Ken McLaughlin, who can speak to these codes for you. That's one of your employees. To have the chief come in and our staff come in, I don't understand it, nor does the chief really understand it either, in talking to him about it. So is there anything that could be done expedite this?
If that's how you feel, that's good to know, that you don't want to partake in this process, is what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying it's a code that your code expert, Ken McLaughlin, in the building, I would think you would talk to him about it.
Correct, but what I'm asking you is, would you like to partake in the process, or would you not?
Well, I thought we already did. I started it in January, with all due respect. Again, in February, my chief was here in March, and none of this was ever brought up in the prior 4 months. So, now we're in the 5th month, I'm just trying to get
Yeah, we've had several conversations, but I appreciate your comment, and thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
So is this something that we're going to be able to see?
I'll meet with the chief tomorrow, I'll have a conversation with the chief, and I'm sure that he'll be able to update you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Peter Turok, 100 Memory Trail. I do want to speak about the rezoning request for self-storage facilities. And before I do, I think I want to start off by quoting Oscar Wilde, who said, "True friends stab you in the front." There's some questions I have, and I'd rather just come right at you with them. I'm going to try to be as respectful as I can about them because I'm concerned about things that I've seen. I guess I want to first ask Shane, you had said when you get an application like this, you have to review the criteria. I think that was code section 24101. And then you said you have to send it to the planning board as part of the procedure. And you mentioned 240-100B. But you didn't mention 240-100C. And that states that the town board has legislative discretion not to process the petition. They don't have to send it to someone. If the zoning board said it doesn't work, this violates the Gateway Hamlet and the residential low density district zoning, it doesn't have to go to the planning board. So you said you weren't saying you were gonna not consider it, you were going to say you were going to not consider it. And to me, sending it to the planning board when you could have stopped it right there is considering it. So I'm concerned about that, and that you led us to believe you had to send it to the planning board. If I'm wrong, let me know. But that's the interpretation I got from the code, section C. The other issue I have is with the whole project in general. It's a spot zoning issue. And I feel that the vote on this was not a valid vote. I'm concerned because there were 3 members here, Richard Ryan, Anthony, and Franco Ingrasso. We all voted on it. Susan and Kelly were not here. And I wanted to ask you, Franco, why you didn't recuse yourself on this when you recused yourself on the executive session about the lawsuit with Neshawat. For full disclosure, both Anthony and Franco have, according to the Board of Elections, contributions have received donations from Neshawat, and Gasland is a Neshawat company. Also, from what I understand, Franco, you are employed by Neshawats, and I find that a huge conflict, and I don't understand why you didn't recuse yourself. And so I don't think there was a quorum as far as the vote went, so I think that should be rescinded. A couple other things that concern me is the Gateway Hamlet was created largely due to the green space, it's called Greenway, I forget where I have it here. It's a Greenway compact that was adopted by Dutchess County, and LaGrange adopted it in 2001. And I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they made that area Gateway Hamlet in order to protect it from something like this. So Gateway Hamlet and a residential zoning districts do not provide for an industrial building like a self-storage unit, and that was clear to the zoning board who sent it up here. So I understand you reviewed the criteria according to 240-101, but at that point you could have stopped it, and you didn't. And I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about connections with the Neshawats and favoritism here. This is clearly spot zoning. And if this does go through and there's a 3-story building on here, that's going to open up 3-story buildings anywhere. Right now, town center is the only place 3-story buildings are allowed. If you put a 3-story building in there and it's going to be only have entrance on Arthur'sburg Road, it's going to be an eyesore. The residents should know there's a project proposed. It's not anywhere near being approved. It still has a lot of changes to be made, but it's called Park Place, and it's right near ShopRite, north of ShopRite, and it loops around to the back of it. And it's a huge development. It's a mixture of 1, 2, and 3-story structures, 142 townhouses, duplexes, and apartments and businesses. It'll be like a mini town center. So you should keep an eye out for that. And if you put a 3-story building here, an industrial building, it's not for the residents, and that will open it up to future approvals of projects like Park Square. So I ask you to rescind the vote and use your legislative discretion to not process the petition. I ask you to respect the Greenway Compact Hamlet Gateway and the residential low-density zoning district, and show that you care about the residents more than you care about the businesses and donors. Thank you for your time.
Who else would like to come up and speak?
Yeah, sorry, me again. I know you're new here, so all that zoning and Gateway Hamlet under the late dead John Wagner is all true. That's what that was all set up for with overlay maps. Specifically, that particular intersection, the Taconic and 82, it's a floodplain, flood zone. Actually, Route 82 is where the water goes in the floodplain. So the entrance you're talking about would be Arthur'sburg Road. Arthur'sburg Road are 3, I think tops 3, it looks like 2 to me, but 3 residential housing lots, okay? It's behind the Neshawat gas station, the old Thew gas station. And he waited till I moved to Florida before he built that gas station. So at one point in time, it was cell towers for that unlucky neighborhood, and then it turned out to be gas stations for that unlucky neighborhood, and that got me Arab dinner in Patterson, New Jersey, and now apparently storage. Now I'll tell you, storage on an exit on a Taconic is a great drug runner's dream. Okay, so you get off the exit, you get your stash in and out, and you keep going between Albany and New York City. I mean, whether it's guns, whether it's drugs, we don't know. Our pot farm is right on Knoxon Road. So eventually when everybody finds out that it damages your heart, well, they'll be dead and it'll be too late. So it was my old neighborhood before I moved to the top of Freedom Road, and it seems like projects never ever leave the creative projects of the town of Grange. So I support the idea of residential, no spot zoning. You stop my Stewart's on the corner of 82 and Taconic for Mr. Neshawat, so he doesn't have another gas station, but boy, that milk and ice cream and Those cinnamon buns are great, and I'd rather put, and by the way, your budget is short on sales tax.
Right.
Okay, and I'm spending all my sales tax at the Stewart's in Pleasant Valley. So there you go. And you're not building houses, and it looks like, and it's true, we all banked on mortgages and mortgage rates and building houses. You got Pegasus Farm over there going in, that's a pretty hot shot, cutting down trees looking thing. But when houses cost $980,000 on up just in material and construction, I wouldn't hold my breath, number one. And then we got this on again, off again, on again war, and interest rates aren't coming down. So I don't think we can count on new houses and mortgage tax money. But definitely no storage. I can't imagine, America has so much tchotchke made in China that they got to store it. But you want to see an ugly eyesore, just go one block due west to Clove Branch in 82. And you'll see a giant monster of a storage facility, which used to be a residential house at one point in time. And you go, my God, what the hell happened? But Mitch's brother sits on the planning board in East Fishkill. I don't know who owns that one there, but boy, if that turns up in this neighborhood, not a good thing. The Gateway Hamlet having townhouses, residential, affordable, condominium townhouses, that sell would be a good thing. So no storage.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Ellen.
Yeah, I'm Ellen Wagoner, and I appreciate just being appointed as the liaison to the planning board. And, I think 2 weeks ago, I started trying to read my way through the list of proposals in front of the planning board, and it made my head swim, because every page you go to has, 10 things on it. So my respect for the work that the planning board does, just in reviewing these incredibly detailed proposals. Now, some of them do build on each other, but it's a huge amount of work. But the other thing I have had a long concern with is that it's easy to get kind of tunnel vision, saying, well, does this fit our rules, and does this fit our rules, and taking a step back periodically and saying, what do we want the whole town to look like? Keeping the Hamlet entrance, and, I've been very encouraged by the effort to get, sort of refresh our open space plan and make it a community preservation plan so that we do take a higher level look and say, how do we want LaGrange to look? And I was struck by the comment at one of the informational meetings I've been to recently that, every house, for $1 of taxes we pay, we typically use $1.16 of services. But if you're paying taxes on your farm or your woodlot or whether, maybe you get 50 or 60 cents of services. So it's in our interest as a town with financial problems to keep some of our open space and not fill it all up. But I anticipate more work than I knew I was getting into trying to keep track with the planning board.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Truman Bledsoe. I've lived at 117 Arthur'sburg Road for 31 years. We have 3 registered voters in our household. I thank you for your service, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about the proposed construction at the bottom of Arthur'sburg Road and Route 82. We oppose the requested rezoning of the residential lot to place the storage facility on our street within our residential community. We don't believe this construction benefits our town or the community. This project will not enhance the values of our homes. We don't believe it will be a quiet, low-impact, respectful neighbor with minimum traffic. I point out that Arthur'sburg Road is the only in and out access to Arthur'sburg Road, Nancy Drive, and Apple Summit, and this construction would sit as the gateway to our residential community. We don't believe that this construction will positively impact an already flood-prone zone and an environmentally sensitive area along the Wardle Creek. Again, we don't believe that this construction enhances our community or the town of LaGrange. It's the wrong construction in the wrong location, and we strongly encourage the board to summarily reject this request for rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So Dave Siegel, Clover Hill Drive. It's been quite a meeting. I'm starting to think I need a moratorium from town hall meetings because there's been a lot said at this meeting. But I'm just standing here because at the last town board meeting, I did come out in support of these folks who don't want the storage facility, and I support them. And the question I have really has to do with three-story buildings and why we are still entertaining three-story buildings in the town of LaGrange when our fire district has gone on record as saying we do not have the equipment necessary to fight a fire in a three-story building. We talked a lot about life safety when it came to BESS. I'm not sure, there's some disconnect for me where the life safety concern is now, like it was for the BESS storage. And so that's really my point. I just, if I'm missing something or I don't understand something, or tell me. But I'm not connecting the dots here, and I'm very concerned about life safety issues, and especially three-story buildings. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah.
My name is Richard Mangini, and I reside on Apple Summit Lane. Mr. Supervisor, esteemed town board members, town clerk, and town attorney, thank you for continuing this open discussion. I know it's been a long meeting for you all. I spoke at our last town board meeting as well, and I certainly continue my stance of opposing the town proposed review of the storage development building, and I want to say that I agree with all the previous comments that were made. We also have started our own petition over the last couple days, and in my hand is in excess of 220 signatures of concerned individuals who oppose this development in such a way. I also have been accompanied by many of my neighbors and fellow residents, and I ask that everyone opposed to this please stand.
I got to sign your petition.
Okay. And I thank you very much for standing. And I just want to say that we are diligent in our opposition to this, and while I enjoy numbers, having an accounting and finance background, I know many of my neighbors may not have the same level of interest, especially with the Knicks playing tonight. But again, they sat through the entire meeting for this last part of open minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Would anyone else like to come up and speak? Yes, sir.
How you guys doing tonight? My name is Alan Robert Rapplier. I'm an attorney at Corley, Garland, and Rapplier Law. It's been a long night. I'm going to be very brief. I had a longer bit written out here, but everything I need to say has kind of already been said. This afternoon, my office submitted a letter on behalf of many residents of this community regarding this zoning issue. The letter was emailed to the town clerk and the members of the board. I have another actual physical letter I'll give to you, so I think we only had a few email addresses. But yeah, I was going to say some words, but it's already all been said, really. I just ask that you listen to your constituents, you listen to your voters, and you really give this zoning issue serious consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would you like to come up here? Yeah, okay.
Good evening. I'm Donna Cardillo, 18 Nancy Drive. I just, again, I am speaking in opposition to this storage unit idea. Yesterday, as I was going on to Arthur'sburg Road, there are 2 narrow lanes there, one in each direction. A neighbor had just pulled off, and I wasn't able to get around. Now, not a big deal. They're my neighbors, we all can be patient, but how patient are we going to be when it's some U-Haul truck that's moving their stuff into this storage unit? That's, I'm sure the egress is going to be off of Arthur'sburg Road and not 82, right? But regardless, I did a, internet search, which I'm famous for, and Google storage unit fires. I just encourage you to do that. There were so many on them, and when you look into the nature of the fires, when we're talking about our fire, which you guys are the best. I am very proud to live in a neighborhood, and they do the most amazing job. We're putting them at risk because if you have, units where people are hoarding stuff, even a couch is a fire hazard if it gets ignited. And if all of these units are packed to the rim, which I have seen many of them, and one catches on fire, and then they have to try to prevent it from spreading. This is not a situation where there's a building here and there's a building there and there's all this space in between, and it gives people a chance, a fighting chance to not have this spread from unit to unit. When you have all these, units together, and one of the fire things were started because somebody was smoking, and the fire started innocently enough. Some of these facilities have 24/7 access. I know they're talking about some kind of smart lighting or something that's going to prevent the night sky from changing. I question that. I also question that they're going to have, are they going to have kiosks? A lot of these businesses, in particular, these businesses are run by having, they just make a phone call, they rent, we don't know, it's not like there's a person there who's really sizing up this person, they just want to sell their unit. So they're going to just sell to whoever's going to pay for it. And these are people like the gentleman said, that they easy off, easy on to the highway. Even if we had security, our police department, troopers, whatever, they're not going to be able to even chase after these people because they'll be long gone. And, I just feel like this is not the development we want for our neighborhood.
Thank you, Donna.
Let's not forget the turtles.
Good evening. My name is Marlene Stager. I also reside at 117 Arthur'sburg Road. I had prepared comments, but most of what I had has been said, and I am opposed to this construction. But I do have a couple questions for the board. The first gentleman that spoke, and I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, he asked a couple of questions, about the codes, and the last one being C, or why Mr. Gian Grasso did not recuse himself. We're asking questions and we're not getting answers. This is a spot zoning. The rules were made for this parcel of land. Why are they being considered for change? But, we've been given no explanation and no answers to the questions that are coming up. And that's what I would like to point out and get some answers.
Thank you. Dave, did you?
No.
Oh. Would anyone else like to come up and speak? Sandy? Yep.
Want to go? You still want to talk about that topic, please? Yeah.
Hi, Carolyn Turilla, Nancy Drive, lived here 32 years. And I'm just going to summarize kind of like what we've all been talking about and what we mentioned for the people the board members who weren't here last time. And our concerns are really in a few topic categories. Traffic and safety. We're worried about the congestion that it'll cause on that corner, which is already a very, very busy corner with traffic, and the speed limit being, 45 through there. People really go 55. Can't tell you how many times I've been almost clobbered, right, by the gravel trucks, T-boned at that lake. It's a quiet dead-end neighborhood. That's our only egress out of the neighborhood is this one road. There was a death there at that corner, a teenage girl 30 years ago when I moved in, right before I moved in, who was killed at that corner, which is kind of why we have a light now, sadly. The environmental impact, complete clear cutting of all the trees, the paving, would cause stormwater runoff. We get a lot of flooding at that corner, and anybody who is in the town highway department knows that every time there's going to be a forecast of a major flood, the town highway department shows up with all the excavating stuff and digs out the mud and all that. So there's a lot of that going on. It's next to the Waterkill Creek. If our neighbor here, who I forgot her name, but she loves turtles, right? She couldn't come tonight because she was worried about the elevator. But she was concerned about the wildlife that would be impacted at that spot with the Waterkill Creek and the swamp next to the ShopRite. The light pollution, as Marlene mentioned, the snow, when it comes winter, we had that really bad snow. All those snow piles are going to be paving, all the salt, all the chemicals going to run right down the road into their yards, into the waterway. All the construction concerns, of course, my whole family is in construction, so I know all about the waste and the debris that goes around, also the trucks, the noise, all that stuff, the excavating, gravel, paving. So we're just really asking that you consider everybody's comments here, and if other people still want to come up, you certainly can, because the entire neighborhood rallied with less than 12 hours notice to come to the last meeting. And our concern is really great that this is going to ruin really our quiet neighborhood. And give stress to families that have autism and PTSD in their family. So we really just are opposed to this. It's against our laws, as someone had mentioned, multiple laws. So we just feel like that last vote should not be counted because of the concerns that we had and were addressed here earlier. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Sandy, please.
I have enough. He said make it a park. I just wanted to end on a positive note. I really try to make sure that we're putting a very positive face forward to our department and to the supervisor and to Franco. I appreciate the positive comments you make about me and the support you show to our department, but your statement of it, Sandy, I don't know how you do it because I don't do it alone. We have built an incredible community of partners, and I already recognized my friends from the Federation, but the CAC is with us at every single thing we do. They led a hike, John's here someplace, or at least he was, led a hike for us last week. We have the scouts who are stepping up for us in so many ways. Our volunteers from the National Honor Society at that Spring Expo were some of the best volunteers from Arlington High School we've ever had. LaGrange Library, LaGrange Fire Department. It's a whole network of people, so I just wanted to point that out. And finally, this year we added a new sponsorship level. I joke with Franco because he's always plugging for money for us, and I appreciate that. But this year we added a Community Plus sponsor, and you'll see that at Community Day and in a lot of things that we're putting out right now in our marketing, and that is double the highest amount for what Community Day sponsors have given in the past. And what they have done is they have pledged $2,000 as opposed to $1, and they are supporting all of our other large events throughout the year. That is an additional $9,000 to all of our community events that are besides Community Day, and that is such an incredible commitment to us and to this community, especially in this economy. And I just wanted to leave my comments this evening there, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, no, well, my crack research staff, which I didn't even know I had until now, let me know, based on what we've been talking about here, that there are over 1,400 storage facility fires every year. So I didn't know that, or we just found that out. But that's just something else to kind of keep in the back of your mind. You know, we're going to need these guys.
No fire hydrants on our street.
Oh, no. No fire hydrants.
Thank you, Dave.
No pond.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, looks like I don't think there's anyone else. Do I have a yes, sir.
Sorry, Roy. Hi, Peter Turrup. This is just a quick one. Some tough things were said about the town council members that are here, and the budget. It sounds like we have a real crisis, and we're very concerned about it. And I do want to say that in all fairness, the buck stops with Alan Bell. He was the supervisor. It's kind of curious he left right at this point. So he was not known for, he was known for being cunning and refinancing some bonds and things like that. So I just want to make sure that Alan Bell gets some recognition here for the responsibility for where we are now. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to close the public comment?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I apologize. We have to...
There's a couple things if everyone,
Yeah, sorry, everyone. The attorney wanted to say something quick.
So look, I think the board hears you loud and clear, okay, in terms of your concerns about the zoning amendment. It's not on the agenda tonight, right? And I want to emphasize again the action that the town board took. We can argue about the interpretation of the code, but everyone here tonight saw a presentation about the tremendous amount of money this town has spent on litigation expenses, right? And summarily dismissing an application without considering it and having no rational basis for it is one of the reasons municipalities get sued all the time. This board is doing its due diligence, it's going to review it, and it'll make a decision. But it's not going to reject something out of hand without looking at it. That's called due process, all right? It's not something everyone likes, but it's something that is a basic tenet of this country, right? It is, and so, you know, it's just it leads to unnecessary litigation and expenses associated with it. And again, we saw that presentation. So, and in terms of the idea that there was a conflict, that vote was a procedural vote, okay, to refer for report and comment. It was not an up or down vote on the merits of the application. So, again, I don't want to debate the terms of the town code. That's the cautious approach that I gave the advice to the board as the town attorney, and I stand by that. And so I just wanted to mention that for the benefit of the public.
Thank you. What does that mean, though? If he sues the town, he's just going to cave?
No, that's not what that means. The public comment hearing is over. It's not what it means at all. It's not what it means. That's not what it means at all. I don't know how you can get that.
Motion to adjourn?
No idea.
Second? All in favor?